Okay. Hello, my name is Blaine and today I'm going to be talking to you all about scuba diving. And I chose this topic because when I was 15 years old, I began taking scuba diving lessons. And when I was 16, my mother and my cousin and I all got open water certified. And we went to Florida and we went diving in springs and in caves. And this was one of the most exciting times of my life and one of the most memorable experiences. So first I'm going to talk to you all about how the scuba diving equipment works, and then I'm going to explain how divers communicate underwater, and then I'm going to discuss the scuba guidelines and safety techniques. So here's some of the scuba equipment, which I actually have with me. First is the mask and the snorkel. And the snorkel is really cool because if you push down on the bottom, the water will come out of the bottom. And you use the snorkel for when you're diving close to the surface, so you can breathe the air. You know, you can put this out of the air and you can breathe the air and not use the air in your oxygen tank because that would waste it up when you can use your snorkel. And the mask is just to protect your eyes and your nose. And then there's the wetsuit, which there's a wetsuit and a dry suit. The dry suit is for more advanced scuba divers who are diving in extremely cold water. And this doesn't allow any water to get to their skin at all. It keeps them completely dry. And there's a wetsuit that when the diver gets in, it'll be cold at first and the water will go in the suit. But then it'll warm up the water to your body temperature and it'll keep that water that's in the suit in there so you stay warm. And then there's the booties, which is the same material as the wetsuit. And you put these on to protect your feet, and also the fins, which strap on to the booties. And they're a lot bigger than normal fins, and they're also a lot more flexible, and they stay on really good if you can tighten them up, and they help you divers swim really fast and get around a lot better. And then there's the buoyancy control device, which is the BCD, which this is a vest that everything's going to hook onto. The air tank will strap onto the back of it. And then you have regulators, which are hoses that connect from the air tank to your mouth. And you have a primary regulator and a secondary regulator. And your primary regulator is the one you're normally going to use, and your secondary regulator is the one that you're going to allow, like a buddy that's underwater with you. If they run out of air, that's kind of like an emergency air tank. And you're going to let your buddy use your secondary regulator so you can both be breathing at the same time. And then you're going to have an inflator on your BCD, which is your vest. And it's just a little thing that hooks onto it, and you push one side of it and it'll inflate, and your vest will fill up with air and it'll make you more buoyant, which means you rise to the surface, like you're more able to float. Or you can deflate it, which makes you less buoyant, which you're able to sink. Or you can get it like right in the middle and you'll just be neutral to where you're just in the middle of the water, you're not floating or sinking. And then there's the weight belt, which is just a belt that goes around your waist, and it has weights on it because when you get in the water, the wetsuit makes you float, and also the oxygen tank will make you float, so it's hard for divers to go down without the weight belt. And there's also a pressure gauge, which is very important, and this is connected to the BCD as well. And this tells how much air pressure is in your tank, so you know how much time left you have to breathe underwater before you need to come up. Oh, and all this information is from the Professional Association of Diving Instructions, which is also called PADI for short, P-A-D-I. So, you can check this out. Now I'm going to talk about how divers communicate underwater. When you're underwater, a lot of times your trainer or someone will ask you how much air pressure is in your tank. So you got to look at your pressure gauge, and you have to tell them you can't talk underwater, so you have to use numbers. And they do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. So if you say I have 37 pounds of pressure, then you're going to do 3, 7. So that's that. You can change slide now. And these are other ways they communicate. These are some of the hand signals, which are pretty explanatory. And all this information, again, is from the PADI. And this is come here. This is watch me, or I'm going to watch you. This is let's go up, let's go down, let's go around. This is let's stay at this depth. This is this way, that way. I'm cold. My ears aren't clearing. Slow down. Hold hands. Get with your buddy. I'll follow you. You follow me. Stop. I'm okay. And then when you're above the surface but you're still in the water, this means help. And this means I'm okay, or if you just do one, this means I'm okay also. This means there's danger. This means let's descend. This means let's ascend. This means I'm out of air, and this means let's share air. So you can choose. Okay, now I'm going to get into talking about some of the safety tips. So the biggest safety tip is the buddy diving system, which is divers always need to be with at least one other person, and this is very, very important because so many things could go wrong. And some more safety tips are divers should always check their equipment every single time, and they need to check their air and plan their dives, and they need to calculate how much air they have in their tank and how long it will last. And you can't come up too fast, so you can't go down at a depth and then you're like, oh, I run out of air in 30 seconds, let me come up real quick, because you need more time to come up, especially the deeper down you are, the longer it's going to take you to ascend. So you don't want to run out of air. So you need to come up in plenty of time. And you also need to divers need to be aware of their surroundings, and when they're descending or ascending, they need to clear their ears very often. And this is very important, and clearing your ears just means like popping your ears, like if you've ever flown in a plane, like your ears will pop. And this is important because if you have sinus infections or sinus problems and you start going down, you can't go more than maybe 10 feet without feeling excruciating pain if your ears won't clear. And if that does start happening, then you don't need to go any further. And divers do not need to surface rapidly because air bubbles can, if they don't clear their ears in time, air bubbles can get in their ears, and this can cause hearing loss and a bunch of problems with their eardrums. And also, if they surface too rapidly, they can get what's called the bends. And according to an article in the Sports Diver magazine, the bends is one of the most serious and dangerous things that can happen to divers. And this is when they come up too fast and the gases in their body, like the hydrogen and stuff, doesn't have time to do what it's supposed to do, and little bubbles form all in their tissue and all in their body. And this is very dangerous. There's several serious side effects. They have intense pain and rashes, and they can become paralyzed. They can have brain damage, memory loss, and it can even result in death. Training. All divers begin training in a swimming pool, and after weeks and weeks of training in swimming pools, they're all saying they're okay right here, but after weeks of training in swimming pools, they have to take written exams that they have to pass before they can become certified. With all this equipment on, it's really hard to walk, and it's really easy to trip over these fins, so every diver will walk backwards when they have all this stuff on, and to get into the water, they'll just jump with one giant step and step down off the boat or off the dock. Now I'm going to talk about some of my personal experiences, and I have some stuff that I actually found when on these trips, so I'm going to pass this around so y'all can see it. Just be careful, some of it's kind of fragile. You can get it out and get it or whatever. This is a place called Jenny Springs, and it's in Florida. And you see it and you're like, oh, you know, it's out in the middle of the woods. It kind of just looks like a little pond that's really blue. But down in there, at the bottom, there's this cave. And it opens up, and it's like really big, and you can swim back in this cave, and it's dark. If you have to have lights, it's completely pitch black dark. Go to the next slide, please. And here you can see, this is pictures of the cave. And some parts of the cave get really narrow and tight. There's tight places, and I remember in some parts of the cave, I was like crawling on the floor of the thing, and like my air tank on the back was scraping the rocks above me, like it was that tight, like you just had to squeeze through it. And then you go back in the cave for a really long time, and when you get to the end, there's this hole in these rocks, and it's got bars